Adjacent owner issues. And I'm getting this from the legal aspects of real estate, studying for the realtor exam, just learning what materials do real estate agents even go through. And I've spent the last 3 years interviewing folks, right? Trying to understand and just wishing that someone would have sat me down and just explained all these concepts. So I'm just going to take it step by step because I always think about, hey, what can I leave for our kids? Well, I like to think that I want to be able to leave them with skills, with the knowledge, with and a wherewithal to learn how to apply these issues. And if I can't master this by teaching it, then I'm not really helping anybody. So today, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to look for some silly analogy so that I can explain this to my 10-year-old when she gets to that age. Because if I can't explain it simply, it doesn't really help anybody. And if I can't help anybody, then the impact of realizing and creating more affordable housing, it's just not going to happen. So thank you for bearing with me. And if you got some good ideas on better analogies to use when you're teaching your kid some of these concepts, I would so appreciate it. You just left it in a comment. I'm always looking for better ways to teach things, especially since I'm doing it for my kids. So let's talk about adjacent owner issues, right? So today I really want to talk about some real life neighborly issues. How do property lines work, right? What happens if someone's fence cross onto your side? And how can you handle noise or other issues coming from next door? Because it's a really big quality of life issue, right? If you're about to buy a house or you're already settled in, this is very, very valuable information. So let's first talk about the boundary lines. Where does your property begin or end? And if you sometimes if you look at a fence, right, you assume it's the official boundary, but that fence could really be in the wrong spot. So those property lines are very vital, right? It's defining it so that you know exactly if you want to build a deck or you want to plant a new hedge or landscaping. I mean, you got to know where your property starts and stops because you don't want. I mean, imagine you're playing soccer field, right? You don't want someone moving a goalpost onto your side, right? If you own a soccer field, sitting for your house, you don't want someone coming to your property when it's your property, and you just want to have your space that you paid for and that you rightfully own. All right. So that's the same concept in real estate. You got to confirm exactly where your side begins and ends in your parcel. Yeah, sorry for my hoodie, guys. The heat's not working today, so it's really, really cold. It's like 60 degrees. So, anyways, second topic. Let's talk about what nuisance are, what trespassing is, what encroachment is. Right? Is it an unwanted gas or is it a minor offense? I mean, usually if you define a nuisance, right, it's this could be excessive noise. Someone's blasting music, some nasty smell that's coming to your house and to your neighbors, or maybe you have some bright lights that's disturbing the neighbor, shining right into the bedroom window. It's almost as your brother or your sister left some smelly shoes in your bedroom all the time, right? It's a small annoyance. It might not be a big deal, but it still affects your daily life. That's my best analogy for sibling rivalry, to say the least. Okay, so then there's trespassing. And this is usually when someone enters or stays on your land without your permission. So if your friend hops onto your backyard every day to get a lost ball because they hit over the fence, that might be trespassing if you don't give them the okay, right? Because they're technically coming onto your property without permission. Now, encroachment is usually when someone's structure or what they can call the improvements sits over your boundary line. That could be a fence, that could be a treehouse, or maybe just a corner of a shed that they incorrectly placed now just sitting on your side, right? It's almost if you had your own big piece of Lego and someone just built a piece onto yours and connected over, right? It's not the end of the world, right? No one's gonna die in a situation, but it's gonna lead to arguments. So you gotta make sure you understand, hey, what's the difference between a nuisance, trespassing, what's considered encroachment? Okay, so we talked about the different issues. What happens when there are boundary disputes? What happens when the lines are in question about your property lines? So maybe your neighbor says, "Hey, you're taking a strip of the land along the driveway," but you believe that's yours, right? The first step is to check the official survey, or you go get a new one from the city or the county, whoever county keeps track of all those public records. Now, if each side ends up on a different claim, you might have to end up going to mediation or even court. It's almost as if you get two kids that fought over who drew the picture, right? You gotta get a grown up in there, right? You both contributed to that one piece of paper, and you each drew on it, and you guys overlapped each other. But who owns that piece of paper? That's a tough one, right? So same concept, right? Or maybe you guys are fighting over, hey, you get this half of the bedroom, I get this half of the bedroom. That's my side, that's your side, right? Very, very typical sibling rivalry. So if you both claim the same half of the bedroom, I mean, you might have to call your parents in. They gotta measure and check the bedroom layout and decide where does this person's area start and where does that person's area start. Because this way, that's the only way you need to settle a dispute, right? You gotta measure and hopefully the parent is fair. Now, obviously, if you really have to get down to resolving issues, I mean, you try to talk it out, you try to compromise, right? But otherwise, if let's say it's a fence issue, right? You probably have to get in writing if you agree to let their fence stay, right? You got to write it down so the future owners know. Or maybe, hey, you only doing this for your neighbor because you really like them, and it does not apply to the future buyer. Sometimes you might have to go to mediation, where you got to get a third party involved to talk it through and understand what happens and what each side's arguments are. And obviously, if that doesn't happen, I mean, you might have to go to the court, and that could get really, really, really expensive. So you gotta have someone to step in. Now, a really common one is think about a tree that's grown over that's overgrown and it's grown into your backyard now, right? So it's maybe it's an apple tree and it's like dropping fruit, right? It was an orange tree, it's dropping oranges or citrus, doesn't matter. I mean, if it's harmless, you might enjoy, hey, I'm getting bonus fruit now, but if it starts damaging your property or creates a safety risk, I mean, you can trim branches back to the property line, okay? And that's how quickly a small issue can become a dispute if you don't handle it gently and legally, all right? So this is so important, especially if you're buying and selling a home. I'm really thinking about this for my kids. If you're buying something, you got to understand, hey, do the fence match up with the official lot lines, right? Are there any encroachments, right? Is there a shared driveway? What are the rights of the driveway, right? Can where does that person? What if they buy a truck and now it's causing you to be on a very edgy driveway? You gotta get that sorted out, right? If you're selling, you got this. You got to disclose hey, if there's any disputes, right? Or if there's a fence that's intentionally offset to accommodate your neighbor's garden, you want to disclose that because the last thing you want to happen is for your deal to fall apart because someone found out at the last minute and thought you were trying to hide something from them. So just understand everybody's boundaries. I mean, no pun intended, but you got to understand what issues that these can come and they can cost a lot of money. So just make sure you stay on top of these issues, especially when it comes to boundaries. And I think most importantly, I think we covered what's important for our kids. It's you got to understand, do your research. Don't assume your realtor knows everything. You might have to double check things. Okay. All right. So I hope you have an amazing Tuesday. I'm so grateful that you all are still tuning in. Today, I was a little sick, a little cold, and I did just one of those days where you didn't want to go live. But I understand that we're staying consistent. This is day 536, and I hope that hey, besides for underwriting deals, I'm now leaving something that I care about. I'm leaving something that my kids will take and maybe laugh at me a little bit, but they're going to take it on and at least understand that this knowledge is out there. It's on their internet, and that their parents or grandparents or great grandparents did it for them. So you can do it too. And I really urge you to take this seriously and just do it alongside with me because sometimes who better than you to explain all this stuff to your own family? All right, I hope you all have an amazing Tuesday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today. And just remember, this is not illegal advice. It's not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm just looking for better analogies that you guys can come up with and share with me so that I can share with my kids. All right, have an amazing day. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 537. Have a good one, everybody.